Shalom, shalom. It's your brother Danal back again, man, with another video. Shabbat shalom to all of those that keep the Shabbat on Saturday, right? Which we know as the Sabbath day. Shalom to the brother on the screen at Azrael. Um, uh, Maybe, hopefully, don't want to make any promises, but you might get a double header today. I know we were slacking a little bit this week, and it's our first time coming on, but nonetheless, man, we're gonna push out as much edification as we can. First and foremost, we give all honor and glory to the Most High God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. We do so by way of His only begotten Son, who's an instrument of salvation for the nation. Right. Today's video, the one we're doing right now, anyways. Right before we go to camp, before we hit the highways and the hedges, is just going to be a quick little exhortation or encouragement video. Just encourage, especially our people. You know what I'm saying? Because we deal with a lot through our days, through our weeks, and just in our lives in general. So it's going to be a little bit of encouragement video for you guys. I had heard something a couple of weeks ago, and it inspired me to make this video. And when you hear wisdom out in the streets, something you hear somebody say something wise, 9 times out of 10, you can find that same wisdom in the Bible because the Bible ultimately has all the wisdom that we need, right? But nonetheless, man, the title of this video is going to be called "Can't Sit Still." Right? Can't sit still. What do you mean by that? Can't sit still. Well, it's not really um, a place of being. Like, hey, man, I just can't sit still. It's more of a precept or a commandment, if you will, right? Not necessarily a commandment from the Most High, but a sense of direction from me, although I speak as a man, right? Letting you guys know you can't sit still in life, right? Can't sit still, can't get complacent, right? And I'm not necessarily even going into being content or just being okay where you at in life. I'm more so going towards the angle of being stuck with the problems that the world may bring you, right? But I got two videos I'm gonna show, but I'm gonna show them towards the end. But we're gonna get into some scriptures real quick first. All right, let's go to Proverbs. Let me share my screen real quick. All right, we're gonna deal with a few scriptures really quick. Proverbs 6:4. Brother Azrael, did you want to read or
I can read.
got you?
Salakia.
Okay, I can go ahead and read this first one, I guess. This is Proverbs chapter 6 and verse number 4. It says, "Give not sleep to thine eyes, nor slumber to thine eyelids." Right? In Proverbs, when you're reading this, man, it's really just telling you, because he's not telling you, "Hey, man, don't ever fall asleep." You know what I'm saying? Like the Most High knows you need your rest, right? It was just why He made days like today, right? So you can hit that reset button, like we always say. You know what I'm saying? Um, so he knows he needs rest. What is he talking about right here? He's saying, hey, look, keep your eyes peeled, stay vigilant. Why do we come to that conclusion? Because of this next verse, right? What does it say in verse number 5?
Verse 5. Deliver thyself as a roe from the hand of the hunter, and as a bird from the hand of the fowler.
Right, man. If you don't know what a roe is, right, today would be your venison or your deer, right? So it says, deliver thyself as the roe, right? The proverb that I heard, right, a couple of weeks ago. It was a wise man in today's time. I'm not gonna do no name dropping or anything like that. He's not in the truth, but he is a man in our community, right? And he says something. Somebody asked him a question like, "What do you do in those situations? What do you do in those trying times when you got a lot going on in your life, right?" And He said, he's gotten to a place where he has been able to compartmentalize things and move forward, right? Because he understands that he has things that he has to accomplish and things he needs to succeed in. So a hindrance in this area of his life shouldn't stop him from moving forward, right? He can table it if he needs to and come back to it, or if he feels like he can handle it at the same time, he can do that. But he always has to be moving forward. He says, one thing I learned, man. He says, I got a lot of property, right? And although I don't hunt, I see them. I see a lot of deer and I see a lot of wild hogs. And one thing about them is they don't stay still, right? They don't sit still because why? When you sit still, give somebody the perfect time to lock in, to hone in, to zero in on you and take you out, right? So he was saying you can't sit still, always be moving, right? I was going back and forth whether I wanted to title this "Can't Sit Still" or "Always Be Moving." Both of them go hand in hand. So it mentions the roe in this verse, and it mentions the bird, right? And then we just mentioned the wild hog too. If you know these animals, right? You know, there's a meme out there about deer, right? It says like, um, one step on a twig will make a deer to flee, right? And then it was trying to be funny, but it says like a diesel truck. A diesel truck will make it stand in its place, right? The sound of a diesel truck. Nonetheless, man, it's letting you know that these deer be moving, right? Because you step on one twig, they out of there. You know what I'm saying? They're not playing no games, right? They always on the move. You talking about birds? You trying to catch a bird? You guys see them folks trying to catch chickens, man. They only got 2 feet, but them feet be moving, right? Same thing with them wild hogs, man. Hey, them wild hogs, they travel in a single file line and still be hard to catch because what? They always be on the move because they know they're safer when they're on the move. They know they're safer. They can get back to their destination. They can get to their destination, right? If they stay on their move. And that's what we got to do, right? Um, let's examine some scriptures real quick. Like I said, it's not going to be a long video at all, but I'm just encouraging folks, man, whether you be going through something in your life, right? Whether it's with your spouse or your kids or co-workers, you know what I'm saying? Or anything, might have car troubles, anything, man, because it always seems like something is going to be going wrong in your life, right? But you ultimately have a goal of where you envision yourself at, where you need to be for you and those around you, right? Sometimes you got to table that stuff, right, and don't let it affect you, and keep making those clear decisions that you need to make to get to your goal. Because a lot of us, we something goes haywire in our life, whether it's our kids or our spouse or the job that we have at the time, and it might prolong us from moving toward the goal that we want to. Right? I watched another video today. I mean, last week, and it was just about making the your decisions. The lady said, she said, all the important decisions in my life, I did without anybody telling me to do it, and I did without telling anybody about them. Right? You got to be able to have that within you to where you can make these decisions without somebody motivating you. Right? You can find your own motivation, and you got to be able to do it sometimes without even reaching out to other folks to help you or to get their opinion on it. Right? Sometimes you just got to move. Right? Cannot sit still, because if you sit still again, that's when you just like what Proverbs says, right? That's when that hunter can zero in on you and take you out, right? When you sitting still. And who's the hunter in this situation? The hunter in this situation is of course the enemy, the devil, right? Satan, right? There's many devils out there, Satan being the chief one, right? But all of them encompassing are looking to take you out. Let's go to First Peter, right? First Peter 5:8. Right, just kind of reiterating what Proverbs was saying.
Be sober, be vigilant, because your adversary, the devil, as a roaring lion, walketh about, seeking whom he may devour.
Right, and we're gonna go over this in the upcoming videos that I'm about to share. But man, it's saying be sober, be vigilant, right? Because your adversary, the devil, as a roaring lion, walketh about seeking whom he may devour, right? And we're gonna get, matter of fact, I might as well just go ahead and jump straight into these videos real quick since I went here already, right? Um, so let's examine some of the tactics of these predatory animals, right? Who do they go for? What are some of their hunting tactics, right? Let's go to, now we all kind of know the lion, right? Lion, uh the male lion usually is back home protecting the den or whatever, right? The pride, while the females go out and they hunt. Sometimes they do solo hunts, but most of the time they hunt in packs, right? A pride. They hunt in packs and or prides, right? And so when you look at that, right, they got strategies to get their prey. You know what I'm saying? So sometimes when you go out in the world, you might have more than one enemy attacking you at the time, but you got to be able to what, be vigilant. And it's possible. How many times you see videos online of a lion pride trying to get a prey, right? But they just end up short, right? It's because one is because that prey is constantly moving, right? You ain't got no time to take a break, right? To catch your breath, right? To stop and eat some of that grass that look good right there. It's all about getting out of there and getting to your destination, especially when you see the enemy is attacking, right? So that's one, the lion. But I got two other examples here, one being the leopard and one being the cheetah. I want to just share a few things real quick, right? Let me know if you can hear this. Let's see if I can scroll this.
I can't hear nothing.
You said what?
I can't hear anything.
Dang, it's not playing.
Are you muting your
Nah, it should be playing.
I don't hear any sound.
I know what I gotta do. Hold up. It's like it. One moment. Share screen. I'm gonna have to play it like this. Should be able to hear it now. Let me know. Hold up. Let me see if I can widen this.
She is one of the few
Can you hear it? Gotcha.
special leopards that have learnt to hide in the treetops and wait for their prey to come to them.
So keep in mind what I just said, man. Some predators out there, they hide, man, and they wait for you to come to them. How many of us put ourselves in bad situations, right? We're moving, but we're moving in the wrong direction, right? Whether that be you moving, life takes you out, and you constantly going to the bar, right? You run into that bottle, or you run into some people like, so it's getting kind of scary at home with your spouse, so you go elsewhere to try to find someone else that can fulfill the what you feel is the role of your spouse. If you get what I'm putting down, if you pick up what I'm putting down, right? Sometimes people are waiting, and the enemy's waiting for you to come to them, right? And that can be our mistake as well, right? Because sometimes you think, like you about to see, you think you're safe and run into this place when you should be running to the Most High, right? And you run to this other place that's not of the Most High. You think you're safe. You might even do it for a few weeks, you know what I'm saying, and nothing happens. But that enemy might be sleeping in that tree above you. You can't even see it, right? So sometimes you can put yourselves in the way of danger, right?
Without making a sound. she gets into position. Not this time.
Like I said, man, sometimes, hey, look, man, if you move quick enough, even if you put yourself in the wrong positions, right? Is the Most High? What did he say? He would never give you more than you would bear. But what was the bonus to that? He'll always provide escape routes. So sometimes, you know what I'm saying, even with you putting yourself in bad situations, sometimes if you snap back to your senses, come back to the Lord in time, you'll be able to escape. But notice how everything was fine, so to speak, and this big cat just jumps out the air, right? Sometimes we can go around about our lives thinking everything's okay. Nobody's seeing the sin that we doing. Nobody's seeing us slack off and all of that, right? And then life can hit you like a ton of bricks. You know what I'm saying? You get fired when you didn't expect it. Your spouse is tripping, talking about something, they want to divorce you, right? Your kids is out here embarrassing you, embarrassing the family name, or your kid might get sick or something. You know what I'm saying? Everything might be looking good, right? But because you're not moving in the direction you should be, whether that be spiritually or in the direction God has called you to be, instead you're moving in a different direction, fulfilled from the flesh. Then life starts to crash on you out of nowhere. When you thought you were safe, you was enjoying your meal like the deer that was on there, right? And so, just be mindful. Sometimes the enemy waits for you to be complacent and for you to come to them or it or he or she, right?
But leopards will go to astonishing lengths to succeed. And some are more daring than others.
Just listen to what he's saying, man.
This leopard climbs up to a branch 9 meters above the ground. She's high.
You can Google for me how long 9 meters is. Convert that into lamest metrics.
Higher than the roof of a 2-story house.
Never mind. He just said it. It's like the roof of a 2-story house. That's how far the leopard is, right?
Leopards have killed themselves jumping these heights.
He said leopards have killed themselves from jumping from this height, right?
Salakia. I was gonna say, man, the term that you see in the King James, where it talks about lie in wait, right? The enemy lies in wait, or the lion lies in wait, or the whatever lies in wait. You hear that term also, in various places. But lie in wait literally means that the enemy, your adversary, is literally lying and waiting on you to make a mistake, right? This also shows that when they're lying in wait, they'll go through very drastic measures. You may think, the enemy wouldn't go to those great lengths to get me to deceive, but they go through, man, they give low blows, they do cheap shots, they go through the greatest amount of lengths possible to be able to devour you. The things that you think that they're not doing, and the places you think that they aren't, right? It could be with the people you worship. It could be, people you worship with. I mean, in the areas you think that the enemy's not, that's where the enemy is. And like the brother said, you could be, just like the deer, just peacefully having a dinner, and then all of a sudden, your life come crashing down because the enemy got you to sin just enough to where he can attack you, right? And that's, part of can't sit still. Can't sit still is always be doing the work of the Lord, man, at all times. Because the moment that you slack up and you feel like life getting comfortable and the life and life is easy and God must be he must be dealing with me because everything just seems to be lining up, that's the moment you get attacked, right? You're supposed to be always doing the work and you're supposed to not be slothful, because ultimately when God sends struggle, it's so that you it's so that you learn to not sit still, right? When you're in struggle, right, you're always going to be figuring out how you can get out of that struggle. But when you're in, for some reason, heaven or peace, right, you start getting lax and lukewarm. So that's why I literally just seen a Facebook post from a brother that's in the truth, and he said, struggle, another another way to show that God loves you, right? Struggle. Because if God has you struggling, you're not going to sit still. You're not supposed to sit still. Some people sit still in their struggle and they get drowned, right? But ultimately, God will send a struggle because, and that's why you see a lot of these animals like deer and stuff, their whole life, they feel like they have to be on edge because, they have that struggle of, I have to defend myself. And that's how we have to be in this world, because the spiritual wickedness in high places is always lying in wait, just like this leopard, pecan.
Right, man. You know, uh, exactly what he said, man. I was about to say something, but I'll save it. Right. Just to give more context of where we're at in this video. Right. 1 second. Um, so like it, but just to get context of where we're at in this video, man, this leopard right here, right? It says that some of them are more daring than others, right? And what they'll do is they'll climb up to these trees that are the height of a two-story house, right, or up to 30 feet in the air, right, and take a plummet on their prey, right. So this is what we're watching real quick, and I'll come. So you see, he was successful right there, right? Why do I bring this up, man? Because you got to understand the enemies that we face, right? The enemies that we face are daring, right? When it says that the lepers will sometimes die from jumping from this height, right? And many of them have died. You're talking about an enemy that has nothing to lose. A lot of times we have a lot to lose, but the people that surround us have nothing to lose, or the enemy that we're facing has nothing to lose, and we play games, right? We get close to them even though we shouldn't, right? We're not vigilant enough to be aware of our surroundings, leaving us vulnerable. And sometimes when our enemies attack, man, they're ruthless. You know what I'm saying? Because they're daring and they have nothing to lose. They don't even care if they go down with you. You see what I'm saying? So it's important to understand
This
it.
would be So, like, I was gonna say, this would be an example of, like you said, somebody, for example, your life, out of nowhere, just crashing. You could be at the dinner table eating just like this deer, and then out of nowhere, your son comes out and says, "Yeah, I'm gay," right? That's kind of like the spiritual equivalent of what we just watched, right? You chilling, you thinking everything's fine, you thinking that you're a great leader in your household, and you got everything under your thumb, and that you know what's going on in everybody's life under your house. Then your son out of nowhere says, "Yeah, I'm gay, and I have a boyfriend. I want y'all to meet him." Right? That's spiritually, that's the same as what we just watched, because you got comfortable and you sat still. You wasn't checking up on your son. You wasn't making them read the Bible with you. You wasn't asking them certain questions. You know what I'm saying? You got comfortable, and the enemy was lying in wait. And before you knew it, because when that leopard was in that tree, man, that deer was already got. The deer just didn't know. and the enemy, that your adversary is literally lying in wait. Sometimes you already got, it's just you waiting. It's the amount of time it's that the enemy's gonna just pounce on you, but you already put in this eye view of prey.
Right, man. You got to constantly be moving in every aspect of your life, like the brother was saying. You know what I'm saying? You got to be constantly moving in your relationships. Your relationships should be evolving every day. They should be getting better every day. There's not one relationship that should stay the same in your life. They all should be improving, whether that be with your parents or your kids or your spouse. They all should be improving, because why? We're not all the same, and we're dealing with different people, and it takes time to perfect relationships. And a lot of times they will never be perfect, right? So you can always improve on this stuff. Don't ever think you got somebody figured out, right? Because just like you got stuff going on in your life, they got stuff going on in their life. So like the brother was saying, don't ever think you got your kids figured out, right? You might think your kids. Oh, their tendencies. Oh, so and so gonna do this. So and so probably gonna be here, right? Make sure you still checking up on them. Make sure you still, picking their brains and instructing them, right? The Bible says if you leave a kid with an idle mind, they become headstrong. They do what they want. You know what I'm saying? Don't ever get to a point where you're not moving, even in your relationships, but with progress in the right direction, led by the Most High, right? You have something else to say?
I was just gonna give like some more examples. Another example would be you may have gotten comfortable and took a job that required you to work on the Sabbath every now and then, and you got comfortable, right? And you said God will have mercy. And now before you know it, they asking you to work a Sabbath day that's on the same day as am I still coming through?
Yeah.
Now they asking you to work a Sabbath day, and you trying to tell them no, but they're saying, hey, if you've worked Saturdays before, and if you don't come to this Saturday, you're fired, and your whole income, you're paying for your wife, you're paying for your kids, your house is based on this one job, and because you got comfortable, now all that's taken away. It could be something like you thought you was in your daughter's life, and she drops on you out of nowhere that she pregnant, and you like, what in the world? When did that happen? It could be your wife, like the brother Dan said earlier. You thought you had a righteous marriage. Y'all taking pictures at the feast days. Out of nowhere, yeah, I'm falling for a divorce.
Right.
It's not you, it's me. And next
Right.
thing you know, you found out she committed adultery with the brother that you worship with, that you do the work with,
Right,
right?
man. Hey, check it out. So it's like, just like the brother was saying, you know what I'm saying? You get into these complacencies, and it allows you to be vulnerable. You know what I'm saying? Dang, man, I got so much bouncing around in my head right now, right? I think I lost what I was gonna say, but I do got one more thing that bounced in there, right? Uh, just having the wherewithal of your surroundings too. See, like, and having the wisdom to know. I'm sure that deer, man, it looked like a young deer, but they should have known better to hang out under a tree, right? They should have known that their enemies hang above in these trees, right? But they got complacent. And what happened is, the last time we was on the tree, nothing happened. So they went underneath this tree and got. And not operating off of wisdom. Sometimes you'd be like, man, you shouldn't be hanging out with so and so. You shouldn't be going here. You shouldn't be going there, right? But you do it anyway. Then you can get got out of nowhere, like the brother was going into. It might even look like this, right? Because we understand, because it says that this leopard hangs out in this tree and waits for his prey to come to him, right? And then they wait for the right moment when they're up underneath them to pounce, because we forget that the Most High allows our enemies to attack us, right? We forget that not only does He allow them to attack us, He allows them to use whatever strategy they want. What does that mean? Sometimes they give us, there's a saying in the world, enough rope to hang ourselves with. So you might think that you getting away with working on a Sabbath every Sabbath, right? And life is going good, and you getting that money, and that girl like you, and all of this stuff, right? You might think you're breaking your integrity for certain things, right? Operating in this world, and the Most High is increasing you, but don't you know, like, some people are only increased just to get destroyed, right? That's what he did to Pharaoh. So you gotta check, because you gotta understand, man. The laws of God, they don't go, they're not pertinent to who you are. A lot of us think we have more favor than what we really have, right? And we think we have favor because we go a long time without getting chastised until that one moment hits where that leopard jumps from 30 feet in the air and ends your life, right?
Right.
Takes that job from you, take that wife from you, take your kids from you.
Right. And also, and those are all things that list you just named: wife, kids, job, children, like all that can be taken away at the same time, right? One final blow can end all of that, right?
Or one can be the catalyst for the rest.
Right, exactly. That's what I mean. So another example of what you just said is like the deer that we're watching. It's not a sin for the deer to eat the grass underneath the tree,
right?
But the location that he's at is not wise. For example, there's plenty of people say, "Hey, man, I go to the nightclub, but I don't be sinning when I go." Other people might be sinning. It might be not a conducive place for me to go, but when I go, I can control myself. When I go, I don't sin. When I do this, I don't sin. When I be around this person, yeah, they kind of crazy and they don't keep the commandments, but shoot, I don't sin. When I let my kids go around so and so, I know they don't sin, but that's just where the enemy wants you. He wants you in an opportune place to where he can just linger, right, and attack you, because that one time you mess up, boy, it's gonna be hell to pay, right? So we have to also watch our locations, like the brother said. Just because you feel like you're not sinning doesn't mean that you can't get attacked if you're in the wrong place. Because if you're in the wrong place at the wrong time, hey, you know what I'm saying? Because the Most High God told us to be prudent. He told us not to fellowship with darkness. So,
what do you say? Abstain from all appearances of evil.
Right.
Right. It's a good point. You said what?
So you're going to get pounced on.
Come on, man. So we talked about the lion. We talked about the leopard, right? I want to talk about cheetah, just different tactics the enemy can use, right? And why you constantly got to stay moving.
Components. It includes prey detection, stalking, chasing, and finally the tripping. As a cheetah nears its target, it will swat at and trip the prey with its dew claw. If the cheetah makes contact, it knocks down its prey and drives its small upper canine teeth into the throat.
I want to make something known right there, right? Two components that I want to hone in on. It says that the cheetah, man, when it's going after its prey, a lot of times before it even pounces on it, it'll trip it up. It'll take his dew claws and trip his prey up that he's chasing, making it easier. Why? Because now he's all balanced, he's fumbling. Now I can, finally jump on this thing, right? And a lot of times, man, that's what happens, right? We doing the right thing, we doing good, and then we allow the enemy to trip us up. That can be in any kind of way, right? Somebody might say something that might trigger something from our past, and now we stuck in a daze just thinking about it, right? And now we're not being what's the word I'm looking for? Not progressional, but we're not handling the things that we need to, because we're stuck reminiscing on something that was our trigger of ours, PTSD. You know what I'm saying? How can this look like? Somebody you might have anger issues, right? Somebody might trip you up. They know the right thing to say to get you riled up. Now angry and sinning, right? You might have an alcohol problem. Somebody might dangle some alcohol in front of you. Hey, bro, come on, turn up with us like you used to in the old days. And you feeling good because life is going great, right? You thinking, why not, man? What's it gonna hurt? And the next thing you know, you slip down a slippery slope, you know what I'm saying, of alcoholism. The second thing I want to point out here is that notice a lot of prey, especially this one, a lot of prey, what they do is, I'm gonna see if I can.
The hunt has several components. It includes prey detection, stalking, chasing, and finally the tripping. As a cheetah nears its target, it will swat at and trip the prey with its dew claw.
Right. If the
cheetah makes contact,
if you can look at that right in slow mo, you would see that He attacked the smallest one out of the pack, right? Sometimes, what does that mean? Sometimes you might be the smallest one. If you're wondering why the enemy keeps attacking you all the time, you might be the smallest one. What does that look like? Not necessarily in stature, but you might be the smallest one of faith, right? Ye of little faith. A lot of people be like, man, it only takes a faith the size of a mustard seed, da, 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 da. But it still matters how big your faith is, right? You don't want your faith to stay small, even if you start out that way, right? And there's consequences for having little faith. We see Peter walking on the water, and what happened? His faith got small, he started drowning. You see what I'm saying? So look, sometimes you got to get built up in the spirit, right? And that enemy will leave you alone, right? Sometimes he goes after the ones that he knows he can get. If you feel like you're constantly being attacked, if you're constantly feeling harassed emotionally, mentally, spiritually, maybe you need to get your spirit up, get back in the word, right? Fast a little bit more, pray a little bit more, hone in on your integrity skills, right? The things that you do and will not do, and you won't compromise for anybody, right? These things to think about. I listened to a podcast this previous week, man, and this lady, she said something kind of profound, and what she said was, she found herself in a depression, and a lot of people know if you've been in a depression, you really don't want to do nothing, right? You should be doing something to dig out of that depression, right? But sometimes the task at hand is so overwhelming that you're stagnant and you don't move, right? Like I said, you cannot sit still. Heard an analogy today. This is a sidebar. I heard an analogy, and it says something like, I mean, you guys probably heard it too, but it says something like it's like a pig eating an elephant. It's a lot of elephant, but one bite at a time. You got to move though. You got to move to get that whole elephant down, to eat it whole, right? I know those are two abominations, but hey, look, I'm trying to draw a point here, right? But back to the lady, she was saying, hey, look, man, I've been in this bed, I can't get out, man. You got the blinds closed, the lights off, you got Netflix on the TV, right? You're not even watching them. You're just watching those previews fade in and out of all the the lineup of the new drops and stuff. You just got that on repeat while you're just laying there, right? And one thing she said was, she understood that she had to do something. She had to do something fast. What she did was, forgot how she ended up thinking about rocket ships, right? But she thought about rocket ships and how they, in order to get off the ground, they needed an explosive movement, right? They needed some type of explosion to propel them in the air, right? So she felt like the same way she had to propel herself out of this bed that she found herself stuck in. So she said, I'm gonna try it tomorrow. I'm gonna try it. I'm gonna set my alarm clock. When my alarm clock goes off, I'm gonna start the countdown, just like rockets, right? 5, 4, 3, 2, and on the count of 1, I'm gonna hop up out the bed, right? Hop up, turn your swag on, take a look in the mirror, say what's up, but she said this works. You know what I'm saying? She said that it works for her. Sometimes the hardest thing to do is to get out of bed, cliche as it is. But I want you to understand that it can only change with movement, right? If you sit still in any way, shape, or form in your life is going to be detrimental, whether that be physically, emotionally, or spiritually. You will always, right, be stagnant. And so little tactics like that, find ways to get you moving, right? Weight loss journey. Sometimes people got 100, 250 pounds to lose, right? It might only be 50 pounds to lose. It might seem overwhelming to you, but you will never chip away at it unless you start moving. You cannot sit still. You can't let that overwhelming attitude or overwhelming task at hand allow you to sit you down. You got to keep moving if you want to accomplish your goal, right? Let me see. Let me share my screen. I got like 3 more precepts. Oh man, I just exited out of that. Let me see. Here it go. Yeah, I can bring it back. Can bring it back. All right. We can go ahead and read this. You're on mute. Or I can read it. No matter.
And let us not be weary in well doing, for in due season we shall reap if we faint not.
Right. If we faint not. Some other versions of the scripture says, lest we dash our foot against a stone, right? Or get tripped up, right? Because, you know, Paul even realized, hey, look, if we're not weary and well doing, if we keep doing what we're supposed to do, if we don't get tripped up, right? If everything runs smoothly, right? If we keep moving, you know what I'm saying? We'll get there eventually. We bring this analogy up a lot, right? When you're driving, there's a couple kind of drivers, right? You got one driver that it starts storming, they start slowing down immediately, right? And they'll throw them hazard lights on, even though you can still see in front of you. You know what I'm saying? You got that driver. You got one driver that as soon as it starts raining, man, they might got some PTSD or something, but they'll pull over to the side until it stops raining. Then you got the other driver, man, that hey, look, it's starting to rain, or the road's getting a little slippery, right? It's coming down kind of hard. There's a truck in front of me, and you know the water that is spitting up from these tires is making it hard to see. But I know the way rain works is only raining in a certain area. If I keep just going forward and having faith in the Most High, I'm gonna get to my destination, or I'm gonna get to a point where this rain stops, right? So that's what you got to do, right? Don't let anything trip you up. Don't faint at anything, man. You got to keep doing what you're doing and well doing, right? Because in due season, you're going to reap that harvest. Let's go to Luke 9. Let's go to Luke 9. Luke 9 and 62. A little pressed for time, so I'm gonna skip one of the precepts, and I'm gonna read two and paraphrase the other. Right, Luke 9 and 62.
9 and 62. And Jesus said unto him, no man having put his hand to the plow and looking back is fit for the kingdom.
Look, man, if you're on this race to get to the kingdom of God, you gotta, hey, look, especially spiritually, you gotta keep plowing. You gotta keep pressing forward, right? You ain't no time to look back and reminisce about your old life and how fun it used to be. Ain't no use of looking back and looking at your old flings that you used to mess with, right? Ain't no looking back as far as now the cares of like the things that the world holds in value now start to compete with your what you hold in value, which is these law, statutes, and commandments in the Most High. Right now, instead of chasing after the Most High, you chasing after that munyan, right? You chasing after that house, you chasing after that car, right? Things like this, instead of keeping the main thing. And anybody that's doing that, man, they're not fit for the kingdom of God. One thing I do to keep my head in perspective is, man, all of this is vanity. It don't matter, right? Because we're just trying to get to the kingdom of God. We're literally in a simulation, if you will. That's how I look at life. It's a simulation. If you take a wind-up toy, right, and you wind it up, you let it go within your house, it's gonna do what it's gonna do. You take that same wind-up toy and you take it to China, right? And you let it go, it's gonna do what it's gonna do. Same thing for you. You're a wind-up toy for the Most High, right? Wherever He placed you, wherever situation He puts you through, you're supposed to do what you're supposed to do when you get when He winds you up, right? But a lot of us, man, have you ever seen a wind-up toy that didn't work? You know what I'm saying? I'm talking about the ones that don't even need batteries. If you wind that joker up, it's gonna work as long as you don't, drop it a few times and he get waterlogged or something like that. I'm talking about, that wind up toy is going to do. And that's what you're supposed to be doing as well. Right. And that's how I look at life. Everything's a simulation. Who cares if you're not able to pay your bills right now? Who cares if you don't have that car that you want? Who cares if you can't buy that house you want? Who cares if your spouse is acting up? Who cares if your kids don't come out the way you thought they was going to come out, right? Who cares about all this stuff? All this stuff is a simulation that you've been placed in. But as a wind-up toy, you're supposed to do what you're supposed to be doing, right? And it's really that simple. Let's see, Mark 4. Let's go to Mark 4:19, right? Mark 4:19.
And the cares of this world and the deceitfulness of riches and the lust of other things entering in choke the word, and it becomes unfruitful.
Right, man. And so, when you deal with the cares of this world, like I was just talking about, it starts to make this truth unfruitful, unappealing. Oh, it doesn't matter that much. That's why a lot of people go back to the world, because this truth, it has become something that's less desirable to them. They're more so desired about getting that them baguettes around their neck, them chains, right? They're more so focused on getting those degrees, going back to school, getting to the money, and of course, right? And the truth becomes unfruitful to them. Imagine that, how you was once full-fledged in this thing, and now the truth itself has become unfruitful, right? It's never going to come unfruitful, but that's how you view it, because everything else has taken precedent over it, right? And so, like I said, sometimes what you think is success is just enough rope to hang yourself with, because it becomes a distraction. Now the enemy got you where they want you, right? Dangling underneath that tree that they about to pounce on you with. You know what I'm saying? So to put things in lamest terms, right? One story that everybody can relate to, that everybody knows in the Bible, is Lot and his wife, right? We see what happened to Lot when his wife looked back, right? She looked back, she caught lacking, she stood still, and what? She's still to this day. That's what happens when you stay still. You will remain still forever, right? So that's why you can't get stuck, right? You got to constantly keep moving. Or you're going to get stuck in life and find yourself in bad situations. So, man, just like the roe or the deer, that wild hog, them birds, when they're in the midst of the hunter's grasp, you got to keep moving. If not, you're going to get got. You don't want to get got. You don't want to give them a time to hone in and zero in on you and on your fate, right? Keep moving. Learn how to compartmentalize things and deal with them as they present themselves, but always keep the main thing. Always press towards the mark and towards your goal, whether that be spiritually, emotionally, physically in this life, right? That's all I got. You got anything to say, Brother Azrael?
Man, just don't get complacent, man. When you get complacent, man, it gives the enemy time to set up his plan. But if you're always moving, right, i.e. in the word of the Lord and in the Lord's work, you know what I'm saying? He can't get a grasp on you, right? And that's the keys to having a successful life, right? No matter what's thrown at you, you keep doing what you're supposed to be doing. Because the things that's going to be thrown at you, like the brother said, are just things to get you to give up and to get you to give up or to get complacent, right? The hard things in your life are to get you to give up, and so you can sit down. And then the good things in life are to get you to, get complacent and sit down and lie down. And that's what you don't want to happen. You want to be moving at a consistent pace throughout your whole life, because this is a trial, right? And this is not the life that we're aiming to live for anyway. It's the next life to come.
Come on, man. Right. So I hope you guys were edified. Hope you guys found a little bit of encouragement. If you do find yourself in a funk, if you have found yourself sitting still, encouraged to move, right? Hope you guys have a wonderful rest of the Shabbat, man. If you guys had a rough week last week, this is your chance to hit the reset button. Even if you didn't have a rough week, man, hopefully this is enough rest that you need to carry on that good streak that you had last week into next week. Remember, man, our Lord and Savior said, if you're not helping to gather, you're helping to scatter, right? Salakia. But even in that, you got to be moving to help gather, right? That's why a lot of people that's not doing anything, man, you consider sitting still. You consider lukewarm. So remember, man, always put that brick in and continue to do this work, right? With that being said, man, we'll see you guys hopefully maybe later on today. Like I said, that's the plan. But, sometimes, plans don't follow through. So don't hold it to our hearts, man. But we'll be downtown in a little while, right?
I was gonna say, yeah, man, I really want to do this lesson tonight, but if not, I just have to say, because it's a good lesson, it's kind of lengthy, and I want to show a PowerPoint. So if Wi-Fi things and my surroundings ain't conducive and it's gonna be a distraction, I probably won't do it. But if everything works out, Lord willing, what I'm saying, we on here later on tonight. I got it listed right now. The lobby's up for 10 o'clock p.m. So we'll see how it goes.
Con. All right. But we'll be downtown Macon here shortly, probably within the next hour or so, right? If not sooner. You know what I'm saying? So come see us if you watching this. If not, man, we'll see you guys next time. Shalom.